Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there, Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
Super deluxe, over the top, ready to smoke some weed. That's how well I am. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. As Mrs. Weedman said, we're about to get normal. So, Mrs. Weedman, pick up that wedding cake we're going to smoke and light it up while I tell everybody in the world what it's about. Wedding cake is an indica dominant hybrid. This strain's like around 21%. It's a 60-40 indica sativa. Wedding cake is sometimes called pink cookies. A hybrid with indica dominance is attained by crossing triangle kush and animal mints. It gives an exceptionally sweet aromatic essence and fruit flavor. The taste is a perfect combination of sweetness of cookies and fruitiness of cherry pie. It works as a calming agent, an appetite stimulator. There you go, Mrs. Weedman. And is quite helpful for patients who experience regular depression, associated syndromes, fibromyalgia, MS, and other such related symptoms. It may act as a sedative for patients, but does help in calming down nerves or controlling anxiety, stimulating symptoms. Although it might not completely hamper your focus and energy levels, it will cause the usual drying out of eyes and mouth. Oof.
No, we're going to have cotton mouth?
I hate cotton mouth.
You got some water?
I do.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah.
This particular medical cannabis is grown indoors. It is observed to contain a THC level of 20% to 27% in terms of physical features. It's shaped like pine trees and looks dense in its structural form. It is quite frosty looking and has dark green leaves. This particular medical cannabis is also thickly dressed up with orange hair all over it. It is most generally known for its sugary taste as well as high potency value. The effects: creative, euphoria, relaxing, sleepy. Chronic pain, the symptoms it relieves: chronic pain, depression, fibromyalgia, insomnia, loss of appetite, multiple sclerosis, and nausea. Some flavors: berry, fruity, and sweet. And then aromas are sweet. How does it taste, Mrs. Weedman?
I can't taste anything.
No?
No. But I smelled it before I lit it, and it smelled grapey.
Grapey.
Mm-hmm.
Grape ape. Grape ape.
Grapey.
You remember that cartoon back in the day?
What was that?
It was a cartoon.
Grape ape.
Yeah, it was a cartoon.
It was like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
A short cartoon.
Yeah. It was like the same anime makers as Yogi Bear.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And Magilla Gorilla.
Yep.
Muttley and Dig Dastardly. And I'm throwing out some old 70s, early 80s, but mostly 70s cartoons. Who else? Magilla Gorilla. He was
Magilla
great.
Gorilla.
Yeah.
Mr. Magoo?
Nope, not Mr. Magoo.
That was different.
But Ricochet Rabbit and Droopy Dog, they were part of that whole. Yeah, Ricochet Rabbit. I'll let you finish up while I smoke this J.
I want to smoke more of it. Whew.
Yeah.
We have had quite a week. We got some awesome news. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. O-Dog came back home from her trip.
She spent 4 months in central and southern Mexico. She made it out to the very southern Pacific coast for the Christmas New Year holiday. She was there, but
slept
otherwise
in a friggin' hammock for a week.
Yeah, she slept on a beach in a hammock.
Good for her.
Nice long siesta.
Yeah. So she's back home.
So she's back and stayed here. She didn't go back to Seattle where she lived. She moved back to Chicago, and so that's been fun.
And then you all know, we've mentioned them many a times, and they were a part of the show. Well, Paulie was part of the early stages of the show, and Shoddy, our producer, will always be a part of the show. They are moving where?
To Chicago.
Back home.
Yay. I'm going to have both of my kids in one state.
Yes. Very, very exciting.
Amazing.
Both kids are back home with Shoddy, our producer, back home. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Sunday dinners.
It's been about 10 years since one was back from military for a minute and then went off to school. And then the other one was away at school. So it has been a hot minute. It's been about 10 years since they've both been under the roof at the same time living in this city.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're super excited. Very excited.
Very stoked.
Yeah.
And then crazy week because our doggo Yuki got spayed and she's
sad.
Very sad. And why is she sad? Not because she's hurting.
No.
Freaking dog's fucking not feeling any pain. And all she is sad about is that she can't play. Dog literally is crying this morning on the couch. Well, she's not even on the couch. On the floor. Literally like that nasally cry.
She makes this little whimper out of her nose. It's so sad.
And you know when she's depressed.
So sad.
She is so sad because she can't do anything right now. And all she wants to do is play ball.
And we have a lot of routine with her.
Yes. She's not having her routine.
We each have like certain games we play with her, you know.
Training.
And then, she just has a pretty full day. And someone's always taking her out for a walk or hopping in the car and taking her over to a park by her house where she can play and run in the field. And the poor little thing. She just keeps staring at us like, what is it? Why won't you play with
Everything
me?
is stop or
What's
no.
wrong
We
with
can't
you?
let her stretch. We can't let her jump. We can't let her go on the couch. Her whole world has been turned upside down.
I keep assuring Mr. Weedman she's going to be okay. I think Mr. Weedman's in worse shape than her.
Well,
you don't cry out of your nose.
I just feel bad because she is a fun-loving dog. And all she wants to do is play and love and have fun. And you can't really do much of anything because those stitches will rip open. Of course, I'll take another hit. So
take that away from me.
It's just upsetting to see her so sad. That's all I'm saying.
She's gonna be okay.
Of course, we know
She's
this.
Just a sad
Dr.
doggy.
Bauer called me today, the vet, and just said we had a talk, and he was asking me how she was doing, and I just said, "Hey, listen, Doc." I probably threw a couple F-bombs out there too. It was kind of funny.
She's fucking sad.
I basically said that. I said this fucking dog. I said this fucking dog's depressed. Literally depressed. Like literally sulking.
She just can't understand why we won't play with her. Because I don't know. Do dogs? I've been trying to figure out, like, does a dog know why it has pain and what causes it? Like, does she realize that there's stitches on her stomach and that's what hurts? And when she moves certain ways, it doesn't hurt because of something else. It hurts because of the stitches.
I only heard her whimper once, though. And it was
she doesn't.
It was the Saturday morning after the surgery. She got out. We actually put her in bed with us because we felt bad. We didn't want to let her sleep in her crate all night. And we put her in bed with us, and she got up and she stretched and she actually whimpered. But that was the only time.
Right. The whimpering she's doing now is like, I just want to play.
Oh my God!
Why won't
it's a
you
whiny
play
whimper. It's just
me?
like, will you please stop? Whimper.
Poor
Will you
little girl.
please? But she is so sad, so depressed. And I'm trying to do whatever I can to at least comfort her.
But then also, so O-Dog was back home and lived with us for like,
2 weeks.
She lived with us for a month before or 2 months before she went on her trip. And then was back here for a few weeks before moving to an apartment. And so Yuki's just like, oh, where's Olivia?
Well, Yuki's been sleeping with her every night.
She would leave our bed, Yuki would, in the middle of the night and go down to Olivia's room. She'd be like, can I go down there?
Yeah. She'd basically be like, look at us. We're like, go ahead. So for 2 weeks, she slept with her sister, as I say. Mm-hmm. And now there's nobody in that room. The bedding is off. So she keeps on wanting to go.
Mess.
Yeah. So her whole world has been turned over.
It's rocked.
So yes. So poor Yuki. Hopefully she gets better soon because I actually miss playing with her. I have a routine with her and I like my routine with her and I get to play and get to have fun and go for long walks and the training I've been doing with her has been phenomenal. So yes, my world has been upturned too as much as Yuki's and yours too. There's a lot of things you can't do with her either. Right. So get well soon, Yuki. That's all we got to say about that. We're all
going to be
okay. You ready to get the show started?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Police are getting people high as part of a stoned driving training. Yes, you're hearing this right. Cops in Maryland will get you stoned and provide snacks. Driving while stoned. It has become one of the more vexing challenges for law enforcement in an era of legalization. The cops across the country struggling to square their jurisdictions' new cannabis laws with their mandate to keep the roads safe. The Washington Post detailed how a police department in Maryland, where voters approved a measure legalizing recreational cannabis last year, are preparing for a potential spike in impaired drivers on the roads. According to the Washington Post, the Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department holds a gathering 2 or 3 times per year. Montgomery County brings in cannabis smokers, literally goes to pick them up in police cars, and walks them to the tent outside in its training academy so they can get stoned. Bags of Cheetos, bottles of water, and plenty of pizza are on the house, the report said. You know what? Fuck you, because not all fucking people that smoke cannabis are fucking munchy heads, okay? It's just a stereotype right there. Not everybody gets the munchies, and you don't have to once you have apples and pears and bananas and fucking healthy fucking snacks. Mrs. Weedman want to go then.
I want straight up red dye number 4.
4, 5, and 55.
10. Just give me a bag of Swedish fish.
Participants are then used as test subjects for officers trying to determine whether someone is too high to drive. That's not easy. Unlike people who drive drunk and whose impairment can be quantified by breathalyzers and blood and alcohol tests, it's more difficult to discern with pot. The exercise, according to the Post, is increasingly being held at police agencies nationwide as the states and cities have lined up to reform their existing cannabis laws and end the prohibition on pot. Law enforcement in those jurisdictions have often had to play catch-up. In Virginia, which became the first state in the southern United States to legalize recreational cannabis in 2021, officials began exploring options last year to crack down on stoned driving. Virginia officials said the oral fluid test under consideration to detect cannabis intoxications are similar to the preliminary breath test, a roadside test for alcohol. The test results while not admissible in court, can help determine whether the cannabis was consumed and can be combined with other factors to get probable cause for extensive blood testing, the Virginia pilot reported back in December. The newspaper also said that officials are considering changing state laws to allow roadside screening devices in which officers and deputies can have a driver swab his or her cheek in order to gather saliva for tests of cannabis and other drugs. Cottonmouth, man, spot on with that. Fuck. Oh my gosh.
I haven't gotten it yet.
I'm also breathing in while reading too, which is not helping in this dry air we have right now. Identifying drivers impaired by cannabis use is of critical importance. However, unlike alcohol, there are currently no evidence-based methods to detect cannabis-impaired driving. The stone driving simulations on Montgomery County, Maryland, might be the most novel effort yet. The Washington Post story provided an account of recent sessions held on Thursday night in January that the test lasted nearly 4 hours. Participants engaged in a 30-minute consumption session. Hell yeah, 30 minutes of smoking some weed? Fuck yeah. For free, too. Followed by impairment evaluations inside the building and repeated the cycle. During the second consumption session, 2, officers asked if any volunteers wanted to add alcohol to the mix. Who wants a Bud Light? Asked Lieutenant John O'Brien. Man, the cops are getting you fucking stoned, drunk, and providing fucking za. What the fuck? Pizza, not Zaza. Then he grabbed a large bottle of booze, Captain Morgan. None of the subjects drove home. They returned via the police who brought them there. All hold medical use cards and are reimbursed for the product they ingest. The Post said that Montgomery has been a leader in the Cannabis Labs program, also called Green Labs, which experts say appears to be operating in nearly 10 states. And this was written by High Times. I think that's pretty okay. We all know why the police are doing it. We all know that, driving under the influence of anything, alcohol, drugs, anything is driving under the influence, and you could get a ticket or even arrested. So it depends. So why they're doing this is to learn more on how people drive stoned so they can catch you on the road driving while high.
To know what to look for.
Right. Of course. So any person, though, would be like, hell yeah, I want to get high for free. Hell yeah, I want to drink some alcohol for free. And hell yeah, I want to fucking.
But then they're not even, if they're giving them alcohol too, that's not a very smart study. They're trying to learn the effects of cannabis and how it affects someone's driving. So why are you introducing alcohol?
Well, they want to see how it affects if you do both. And I understand why. So they probably test, as you can see, test the first 2 hours with cannabis. And then they'll throw some alcohol in to see how you do on both. And then they can really see the effects of doing both together.
But then wouldn't you want to know, like, are you using experienced cannabis consumers, or are you using somebody who's never smoked before?
It said they're med card holders, so
they know what they're doing.
So they know what they're doing. They're somewhat experienced. You know, it could be new med card holders too, but
right.
But could be experienced cannabis users. So, and experienced cannabis users can fucking drive. Yeah. I've driven with a very good friend of mine when I worked for the brewery, and this guy would do bowl rips all day and drove fucking probably better than I drove sober. I think he drove better high than he drove better when he was, because he has high anxiety.
Right.
So when he smoked, it calmed down. He hated parallel parking. It made him so fucking nervous.
Oh.
So, when he smoked, it calmed him down. Guy never got a ticket because he drove always the speed limit. Don't you understand that too? When people drink, they drive really fast.
But I do know
when you and I are baked and we happen to drive sometimes, I'm not gonna lie about it. I drive sometimes 5 miles under the speed limit,
but you think you're going so fast.
You do.
You're or like, I drive. I'm going so fast, and then you look down, and you're like doing 55 on the Dan Ryan.
Right.
Not a great idea.
Or I drive all the way over in the lane. Yeah. The right lane and
all
the slow lane.
Yes.
All the way over and just do the speed limit. And
but you still feel like you're speeding.
So you do. It's funny, but you do drive safer. I think.
Super cautious.
You're very alert. Yeah. Your senses are heightened, so you're very alert.
I think that the biggest question is your response time, if that you would react fast enough. But no, I'm saying that, I think research has shown that there is a delay in your response or your reaction if you're highly high. Sometimes
True.
You do move kind of jerky and weird.
It just depends. But like I said, I've driven with people who drive better high than they're not.
We're not advocating
no, not at all.
Driving
not at
high.
all. So, but I know people do.
Right.
So who might have lied
people
about
do
it.
a lot of things.
Right. Employers, what's going on with cannabis policies and what kind of shit do they got going?
Well, all sorts of stuff, they're here. We have legalization in so many places, and the legalization is ahead of the laws. We talk about that a lot. So a little bit of this is kind of redundant information, but I think presented in a different light. So this is how employers have to think about cannabis use in their workplace. And companies are struggling to understand the changing state laws on cannabis and related workplace policies. This was written in Shroom, or it's like shroom.com, and it's the Society for Human Resource Management. So Michelle Hutchinson was ready to start her job as a resident care assistant at a personalized senior care community in Richland, Pennsylvania, when the position went up in smoke. Hutchinson said that during her pre-employment screening, which included a drug test, she presented her employers with her state medical marijuana card and sent a copy of it to the company's medical review officer, explaining that she uses cannabis, which she doesn't have to explain her use. There are HIPAA laws, but she chose to explain that she uses cannabis to treat her post-traumatic stress and anxiety disorders. Pennsylvania has a comprehensive medical marijuana program, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, she received an email explaining that her conditional offer of employment had been rescinded. After Hutchinson sued the company seeking lost pay and benefits, lost future pay, and compensatory damages, she settled for an undisclosed amount, according to Law 360. Nearly half of Americans live in states where cannabis is legal, and companies are struggling to understand what they're allowed to accept within the confines of the office. Can an employer ban the drug, even if someone is using cannabis for medical purposes as prescribed by a doctor, such as to ease migraines or the side effects of chemotherapy? Can employees take a puff whenever they feel the need? Should employers be barred from drug testing? Answers to these questions, along with the seemingly everything else cannabis related, can be really murky, but some facts are crystal clear. Cannabis is still federally banned substance, and states are making their own laws. So before employers start firing employees who fail drug tests or who appear to be hazy-eyed and sleepy, business leaders need to know the laws and then determine how their organization views the use of cannabis by employees. In general, each workplace environment is entitled to have and enforce its own policies, especially when it comes to private employers, said Michael O'Brien, CEO and General Counsel at Sonoran Roots Craft Cannabis and a member of the Arizona Dispensaries Association Board. Despite the federal ban, states are making their own laws on usage. Currently, recreational use of cannabis is legal in 21 states, along with Washington, D.C. and Guam. Additionally, medical marijuana programs are sanctioned in 37 states, plus D.C., Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. In the November elections, residents of Maryland and Missouri voted to legalize recreational cannabis, and voters in Arkansas and North and South Dakota rejected legalization proposals. A recent survey found that most people agree that cannabis should be totally legalized. Nearly 9 out of 10 adults in the U.S. say that it should be legal for recreational and medical use, according to the Pew Research Center. Despite growing public acceptance of cannabis, employers have freedom on how to approach the issue. Most state laws give businesses the ability to maintain a drug-free workplace and prohibit the consumption of cannabis while at work, says Jennifer Fisher, partner and co-chair of law firm Goodwins in San Francisco. In 1986, President Ronald Reagan instituted drug testing for federal employees. By 1990, an estimated 43% of the largest U.S. employers, those companies with more than 1,000 employees, were mandating drug testing. Today, that number has dropped significantly. Just 16% of private sector employees or employers of all sizes test for drug and or alcohol, according to a 2022 report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's interesting. That's a big 43% down to 16% in 32 years. But if cannabis has been legalized in your state, can you legally fire someone for failing or refusing to take a drug test? Employers are generally allowed to test employees for the presence of drugs, though in most cases they aren't required to administer tests at all. Most states impose some restrictions on testing, such as allowing it only when there is suspicion of substance use or following a workplace accident. The testing of employees in safety-sensitive jobs is commonly authorized as well. In Florida, former state correctional officer Samuel Velez Ortiz was dismissed after failing a random drug test last year, according to local news reports. At the time, he had a state medical marijuana card issued as part of treatment for his post-traumatic stress disorder. Attorneys for Ortiz wrote in a brief, "The employer attempts to cloud the main issue of this case by ignoring the fact that the employee was terminated for being a legal medical marijuana user. But Ortiz lost his case. Maybe he should have checked his state laws prior to taking the drug test." In Florida, employers are allowed to require job applicants to submit to random drug tests, and they are allowed to fire employees at will for failing those drug tests, even if the workers have a valid medical marijuana card. So he just didn't know enough about his own state's laws. Employers may choose to treat cannabis like alcohol and allow employees with medical marijuana cards to consume cannabis when they're not working, so long as they're not under the influence when they clock into work. But the issue isn't always clear-cut. In Washington, D.C., where testing for cannabis use is allowed where there is reasonable suspicion of drug use, the court nonetheless reversed the firing of a government employee who was suspected of being intoxicated on the job. The employee, who tested positive for cannabis but had a medical card, told her employer she hadn't used cannabis at the time of her testing, but had consumed it over the weekend. Because the employee was allowed to perform her duties and did in fact adequately do so after being observed by her supervisors, I find that the supervisors did not reasonably believe that the employee's ability to perform her job was impaired. The municipal judge wrote in her ruling. As such, I further conclude that a reasonable suspicion referral was unwarranted. My hope is that, as things progress, there will be a technological fix that will allow us to determine if a worker is under the influence, the way we're able to do with alcohol, said Douglas Parker, Assistant Secretary of Labor for Occupational Safety and Health. Employers should be slow to jump to conclusions. A company needs to be careful when disciplining medical marijuana users, says employment attorney David Reicher, CEO of legaladvice.com. Many states' have laws protecting medical cannabis patients from being discriminated by their employer, and those laws are limited. For example, in Rhode Island, employers can't refuse to hire medical marijuana patients who don't pass a drug test. But the state doesn't allow anyone to undertake tasks where they are under the influence of marijuana if doing so would constitute negligence or professional malpractice. Plus, the law says nothing in this chapter shall be construed to require an employer to accommodate the medical use of marijuana in any workplace. So does this leave you confused? We've talked about a lot, and, different rules and the ins and outs, right? Well, there is a legal answer. And then there is a practical answer, says Laura Bianchi, a partner with law firm Bianchi and Brandt in Scottsdale, Arizona. Because cannabis remains illegal from a federal perspective, even with state protections, there are many nuances and exceptions to the law, Bianchi says. Employers are within their rights to prohibit consumption while at work. If employees are impaired at work and consumption poses a safety risk or impairs their ability to perform the required functions of their job, an employer can terminate the employee for violating the policy, Bianchi says. The laws are subjective, so employers need to clearly explain their handbooks what they will and will not tolerate when it comes to cannabis use at work. These rules, however, must fall within the legalities of individual states. If the employer is in Arizona, for example, it must understand that medical marijuana cardholders are allowed to possess medical marijuana within the allowable limit. However, the statutory protections do not extend to possession or consumption at the workplace during business hours, Bianchi says. In these situations, the policies of the employer will likely dictate whether or not you may possess cannabis at your workplace. If your company has offices in multiple states with differing drug laws, you can establish practices of your own. Again, just make sure your employees understand those policies. And depending on the size of the company, the industry, and those setting the policies at the company, this can vary from complete prohibition of employee use to a hands-off policy, O'Brien says. So to be clear, don't just memorize the current rules or advice. It's a constantly changing and evolving in the areas of law, Bianchi says. So for most of our clients, it's an ongoing decision. So just try to stay up on your laws.
Really good article, though.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people probably don't know if they can get,
right,
with their employers. Just like we read about the fireman on the last one that got his job back because he's a medical cannabis user, what he does in his own time.
But this guy, the corrections officer, didn't.
Right.
He didn't get his job back.
Right.
But,
weird.
Yeah.
So.
But it's because his state had a law that said that he can't.
Right.
He can't have it. Whatever.
You can't use it.
I already forgot.
So.
Yeah.
Mass layoffs are continuing in the cannabis industry in the States here and all around the world. This was, I've talked about this multiple times with people. And the thing about what's going on, everyone thought the cannabis industry was safe. No industry is safe from layoffs, especially if you're a publicly traded company. The shareholders want their money first. So lay people off because you got to please the shareholders and you got to show some money coming in. And what's your biggest expense? Labor. That's the first thing that gets cut. Maybe marketing, but labor. So let's read a little bit. Let's talk about mass layoffs in the cannabis industry globally. A Colombian cannabis company with operations in Portugal on January 23rd of this year, the company announced restructuring plans. When you hear the word restructure, that's a layoff, just so you know. They move people around and they can basically get rid of you and just saying, we're structuring you to a new position, which means sometimes you're going to get demoted. And they're not telling you that, but we're restructuring the company for you so you can, and if you don't want to take this restructuring, here's some money. Get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. Here's your final paycheck, your 2 weeks fucking insurance, and here's a severance package. Adios. So that's what they mean by restructuring.
Is that how they say it?
Basically. Well, they get some fucking HR fucking dimwits.
They just think that we're all dumb enough to believe that they're restructuring.
Not all people in HR are dimwits.
No,
but there's some. So I've had a lot of good relationships with HR people. So the restructuring means winding down all operations in the Portugal location. In fact, the company wants to move everything back to cut cost back to Colombia. So restructuring, lay people off, get some money back in your pocket. That's one company. Total of 49 jobs were lost. Kind of sucks. So in Canada, the company announced they would temporarily lay off 40 people. That's 40 temporarily. But when they see the profits coming in, because they're not going to let those people come back. So, or they'll hire people for lesser wage. That's how it works. Another Canadian company, Cultivation Service Enterprise, with locations in several countries, made some big changes last year to keep from going bankruptcy. It cut employees in a tune of $4 million in savings. It's 40% of the workforce gone. Now the company's making some revenue. See? Fake numbers don't make the business last long. That's how they fake the numbers. Labor costs. Instead of doing what you should actually really do, go out and fucking hustle your ass off and make more sales to bring more money in to keep people's jobs. Ta-da. Pretty, I don't know, just sensible, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mass layoffs in the United States, too. The U.S. might not have federally legal weed, but it's home to the biggest cannabis industry. However, things aren't doing better within the borders of the U.S. Than they are doing outside. So, some layoffs. LeafLink out of New York laid off 80 people last year. TrueLeaf, a company offering medical cannabis products and services out of Tallahassee, Florida, laid off approximately 36 people. They technically small potatoes considering the company employs 8,000, but it's not. It's also not the first cut. There's another one. While the cut was blamed on TrueLeaf's $2 billion acquisition of Arizona-based multi-state operator Harvest Health and Recreation in 2021, it also came on the heels of the company posting a quarterly loss of $115 million.
Chump change.
Yeah. Another Florida company, Spring Big, technological company of weed-specific marketing software, cut 23% of its workforce, 37 people. These cuts meant $200,000 in the short term and 21% in the first 3 quarters of 2023. Da, da, da. Instead of selling more of your product, let people go. If you're a big reader of cannabis news, the publication Leafly, their stock went to shit, is likely familiar to you. Well, even Leafly Holdings is having problems. In October of last year, it was reported that the Cannabis Resource and Marketplace would cut 56 jobs and has 21% of its staff. LFLY and NASDAQ, their stock went from $7 to now it's under $1. I'm a sucker. It's looking to save approximately $16 million a year by letting these people go. Well, good. Get your stock back up. Previously mentioned layoffs in cannabis industry. Some big layoffs already reported, including Weed Maps, which cut 25% of its workforce. We all know what's going on with Cureleaf Holdings right now, which got rid of 220 employees and sold a bunch of stuff on the West Coast. Their stock went to shit too, which released a third of its staff, or 59 workers. Dutchie, which removed 8% of its workforce. Canopy Growth, which sold all of its retail locations and cut 245 jobs last year. Aurora Cannabis, which cuts 12% of its workforce and part of the corporate restructuring to save money. Save money. With the biggest names in the cannabis faltering, it brings up the question of who can survive. More companies to let employees go recently, including California's Ease, which laid off 25 employees last year. Loom, a cannabis company out of Michigan, closed out for 30 people and closed 4 of its 30 stores. And Nature AZ Medicine, an Arizona medical cannabis company, cut 100 employees as a result of medical sales falling. And I have a bunch of stuff I'm going to be talking about through the rest of the show on what's going on in the industry. And it's all shit because you all fucked it up. All you states that don't allow home grow, and these people are going to work for these fucking cannabis companies, and now they're out of jobs, and you're not allowing home grow because I don't support. Fuck you. These people have families to feed because you can't go on the stock exchange and please your fucking shareholders first and take care of your employees. You do all the fucking hard work, and all your bud tenders out there and all your cultivation people, all your trimmers and all the people that got cut first. So all you fucking corporate guys can give yourself another fucking bonus. So fuck you, because they all have families, and fuck you back again. Anyway, Mrs. Weedman, you ready? I'm hot.
Whoa.
Yes. This is a really good article.
Just to end that, maybe on a little upside, and maybe I don't need to say this, but the cultivation and dispensary owners aren't making insane profits right now. The tax man is making insane
we know
profits.
that.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
But here's the thing.
But they are trying to get themselves in
But
a
here's the
position
thing.
of
But you hire, you don't.
But they need to take care of
and I'm not
everybody.
talking about every cannabis company out there.
Right.
I'm not talking about all corporate cannabis companies. I'm talking about these companies that I mentioned
Right.
that are looking for profit before people.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't say anything bad about everybody else. I'm just talking about those companies. And there's
particular
other
ones.
companies that weren't mentioned in this fucking article too that laid people off last year. Okay? There's a lot more. But people have families and lives, and here's your severance package. See you go on your way. So I can put another $14 million back into the fucking company.
Right.
Those are the people that got you where you needed to be at.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the face of the business. We just heard
Bud
somebody.
tenders are, if it wasn't for bud tenders, no fucking
Right.
cannabis company or cultivation company would be where they're at today. They are the face of the fucking industry. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it was interesting because we heard a public speaker last week, and it was just so interesting because she hit the nail on the head. She was talking from a corporate, or they call it the C-suite level.
Ugh.
So she was talking C-suite jargon to an audience of people that wanted to hear it. Most of the people were in business. And she kind of poked about the bud tenders wanting, like, all these people come in and they want to get into the C-suite level without doing everything in between, and they don't want to like learn how to be a bud tender. And it's like, well, wait, did you learn the whole business? Because you're saying the bud tender needs to stay at the bottom and that's where they need to be, but not really quantifying them as being important. But then
Not at all.
later she totally contradicted herself, because she said, well, you really need to educate your bud tenders, because they're selling your product. They're the face of your business, and they're the person talking to the public and putting your product in their hand.
100%.
I was like, wait a minute, you were just kind of saying that the bud tender is not really that important,
Uh-huh.
and that they should just slow their roll and be happy being a bud tender. Too bad if they don't like it.
Right.
And like, kind of, I don't know, it was a weird play on her opinion. I don't know that was her intended message. I don't think she probably realized that she was saying that.
Here's the thing. Okay.
But
here's the thing about
rough.
any industry, not only just cannabis, but I'm going to talk about the cannabis industry. Here's the thing. When you get hired or you get interviewed and they ask the kind of questions like, oh, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? That question blows. You should never ask that question to anybody else again. Most people can't know what they're fucking doing tomorrow. So here's the thing. What do you see yourself in this company? Do you want to move up? Don't even talk about that kind of stuff yet. Pay your people fairly for the work that they do. Retail life sucks.
mm-hmm.
Pay them union wages so they don't have to join the union, and protect your employees and watch how hard they work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Pay them $25 to $28 an hour.
Because they are the person putting the products in.
They are the
people's
money generating,
Mm-hmm.
revenue generating for your company.
And
they generate the revenue
Yeah.
stream.
And have you met a single bud tender or, dispensary employee that is not passionate about what they're doing? They all are there
All have a
because
smile
they
on their
just
face. They love the industry.
they just love the industry.
Right.
They love cannabis, and they're excited to share their knowledge.
100%.
And they know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yep.
I mean, think about all of the products and the terminology and the terpenes and the cannabinoids and the strain this and the strain that and this new brand and that new brand. They know, like,
And they know like what
what's good for
terpenes
what
or
kind of
cannabinoids
response
for
are
your
you looking
ailment,
for,
especially in the medical side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
All right.
like some people compare a bud tender to a sommelier.
Yeah.
There's no education set in place, like standardized testing to become a bud tender. But there's a shit ton of knowledge, just like a sommelier, and it's just as complex, I think.
There is now. I mean, I remember I took the cannabis course in Moraine Valley,
right.
the retail cannabis, but there's courses now you could take on cannabis for that reason.
But to be a bud tender, there's not this standard yet that you have to be educated with a degree in cannabis.
Right. No.
Right.
No.
So what I'm saying is to call yourself a sommelier, you go through this very elaborate schooling and a really, really intense test. Many people don't pass it. And bud tenders, I would say, a majority of bud tenders have gained that much knowledge.
And they get a lot
cannabis.
of training in the companies they work with.
But there's no certification that they could say, like, I'm worth a lot to your dispensary because I have this certificate.
Or I have this diploma.
Right.
Or I have this. Yes.
Right.
100%. All right. Let's move on.
Sorry.
Because this one's good. Now, this one, I actually went and looked at some other articles to see if this was like really with the edibles. And this is by John Hopkins. Scientists warn about some effects with what? CBD and THC, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, fucking crazy what we read here. Now, this is edibles, though.
This is a study. You were a little bit all over the place on that.
No, not at all.
Maybe
you told me not to read the titles anymore.
So you're trying to get crafty.
Crafty with my introduction here. So anyway.
All right. CBD may worsen adverse effects of THC in edibles. Isn't that bizarre? Because we've been kind of educated that if you smoke too much THC, you could have like smoke a CBD joint
or take some tincture,
take some tincture or have a CBD gummy, and that it would counterbalance the heavy hitting THC level that you're at and bring you down a little bit. So this study is showing that because edibles are digested and processed by your body differently, that CBD is in fact making the THC stronger. Very interesting. So this is Johns Hopkins scientists. And this was printed. And
this is a major,
yeah, that's big.
John Hopkins is big. Yeah.
This was written by Benzinga, staff writer. So while it is often considered that CBD can mitigate some of the negative effects of THC, a new study shows the opposite when it comes to cannabis edible products. According to the new research from Johns Hopkins Medicine, scientists published in JAMA Network Open. This was published in JAMA Network Open. Okay. CBD inhibits the metabolism or breakdown of THC, which can cause stronger and longer lasting cannabis effects, including adverse ones. The clinical trial, which included 18 adults participating by ingesting 20 milligrams of Delta-9 THC plus 640 milligrams of CBD, resulted in stronger subjective drug effects and greater impairment of cognitive and psychomotor ability. Participants also experienced a greater increase in heart rate relative to 20 milligrams of Delta THC alone and placebo. The maximum concentration of THC measured in participants' blood was nearly twice as much after consuming a brownie with both THC and CBD versus the THC-only brownie, even though the amount of THC was the same, 20 milligrams in each edible, writes Medical Express. That's really interesting. Furthermore, the maximum amount of metabolic byproducts of THC that cause a similar effect of THC was 10 times higher after eating edibles with high concentrations of CBD than after consuming edibles containing only THC extract. So again, the fact that THC and CBD were orally administered was very important for the study and played a large role in the behavioral effects and drug interactions we saw, said Austin Zamaripa, a postdoctoral research fellow at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and the study's lead author. Most of the previous studies that were trying to assess how CBD and THC combined are affecting our bodies and mind used other consumptions like inhalation and IV. So this recent experimental study was published in Addiction and led by UCL and King's College London, and it revealed that the short-term effects of vaporized cannabis are the same or both. The short-term effects of vaporized cannabis are the same on both adolescents and adults, and cannabidiol or CBD does not mitigate the acute harms caused by delta 9 THC. The study was only analyzing vaporized cannabis effects. And then another study published in the Journal of Pharmacology, Psychopharmacology, in May of 2022 shows that CBD can minimize some of the negative effects THC has on the brain. Studied only, though, was the method of consumption with vaporization. So here they're saying, again, when you're smoking, you're inhaling, the CBD can minimize the negative effects. Totally opposite when you're ingesting. So cannabis is a very popular recreational drug, and it is also starting to be used, I wouldn't say starting, but for medical purposes. But we still don't know a great deal about how different cannabinoids affect the brain. Study author Matt Wall told SciPost. The researchers revealed that THC and CBD have opposing effects. This means that most of the previous findings on interactions of THC and CBD may not be applicable to edible cannabis products like cookies and other baked goods, gummies, and candies, which are all metabolized in the intestine and liver. Overall, we saw stronger subjective drug effects, greater impairment of cognitive and psychomotor ability, and greater increase in heart rate with the same dose of THC when it was given in a high CBD cannabis extract, compared with a high THC extract with no CBD, Zamaripa added. So, in this study, 18 adults, 11 men, and 7 women took part, all of which had not consumed cannabis for a minimum of 30 days before taking part in the research. They were also given a drug cocktail with 5 cytochrome probe drugs. So those were things like common prescription medications. And they did this 30 minutes after consuming each edible. And this was for the purpose of analyzing how CBD and THC might impact how we metabolize other common drugs and dietary supplements. These findings are yet to be revealed in a separate paper. So that will be interesting. Participants graded subjective drug effects on a scale from 0 to 100, with 0 meaning not at all affected and 100 being extremely affected. The ratings revealed the following subjective impacts. Overall drug effects, 59 were saying 59 versus 73. So the 73 were people who took the THC and CBD. 59 was THC only. Unpleasant drug effects, 20 people said that with the THC only, 20 people said they had unpleasant drug effects, 39 when it was the combo, THC and CBD. Feeling sick, THC only, there were 12 people versus the THC CBD combo, there were 26 who felt sick. Dry and red eyes, 16 with only consuming THC, 29 with the combo, and troubles with performing routine tasks, 30 with THC only, and 47 with a combo of THC and CBD. So scientists also discovered that participants had higher memory and attention impairments and a much higher heart rate, from 10 to 25 beats per minute increase from baseline when consuming both together. So we have demonstrated that with a relatively high oral dose of CBD, there can be significant metabolic interactions between THC and CBD, such that the THC effects are stronger, longer lasting, and tend to reflect an increase in unwanted adverse effects, said Ryan Vandre, professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. And he was the study's senior author. So people should consult their doctors and be careful when taking a high-dose CBD extract in combination with other medications, Vandre warns. The scientists concluded that more studies are needed to completely understand the interactions of CBD and THC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, but it's a big amount of CBD they gave them, though.
Yeah. You know, and then I was thinking too, CBD has a base, like a small amount of THC. If you're taking in 640 milligrams of CBD,
that's a lot.
There's got to be at least 5 milligrams of THC.
I would like them to see.
What do you think?
Well, they said if we're giving him 20 milligrams of THC with 640 milligrams of CBD, I would like them to do a more realistic study, like where you see ratios, where you see like a true ratio, like a 20 to 1, 20 milligrams of CBD, 1 milligram of THC, or
what you would see in the market.
Or 50 and
right?
10, 50
Right.
CBD, 10 milligrams. I'd rather see them lower it a little bit and see if those have that's a very high. Most people don't dose 20 milligrams. Experienced people do. I don't take 20 milligrams at one time. I usually take a 10 and maybe a couple hours later, I'll take another 10 throughout the day, but not at once.
And what about do people take CBD throughout the day or once a day?
Some people take once a day. Some people might take it 2 or 3 times a day.
Do they take that many milligrams?
I don't know what the dose. I mean, I know the dose that you should be 50 milligrams, 25 to 50 milligrams a day should be like the average dose. So, well, very interesting. I'm hoping there's more studies on this and to really like go lower dose and see if this works like that too. So, North Carolina Compassion Care Act is debated. New medical legislation recently introduced. That's kind of cool. See if it moves forward. Cannabis into Wisconsin government budget. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers recently proposed a $103 billion 2-year budget that addresses medical and recreational cannabis legalization in the state. That's a fucking lot of money. A new bill in Connecticut aims to educate people about DUI and about cannabis under the influence. Hemp textile industry in Ukraine. Officials launched a project to develop a hemp industrial park that could become the development of a modern cluster in technical cannabis cultivation. I wonder if that's where all of our tax dollars are going to. Oh, wait, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. California launched a $200 million grant program. Reportedly launched a grant program to develop and implement cannabis retailer licensing programs. So that's kind of cool. The DEA classifies novel cannabinoids as Delta 8 and 9 and THCO as controlled substances even when synthesized from legal hemp. My gosh, just idiots. Pennsylvania lawmakers will introduce a bill allowing farmers to grow medical cannabis. Great. Oklahoma, get ready. You're about to vote for recreational cannabis on March 7th. Oklahomians, get out there and do your fucking due diligence and vote yes. Vote yes on 820. Bill 820, not 420. 820. Vote on it. Sensible marijuana laws. Right now, medical cannabis card holders are taxed 7%, and the proposed measure passes a month. Recreational clients will probably be taxed 50%. That's it, 15% for recreational. Vote yes now. That fucking state is awesome. You can home grow too. It's amazing. Washington update. A bunch of cannabis bills introduced. Legislature, high potency cannabis products, and weed restrictions coming into fucking Washington. I mean, come on, man. You were one of the first. No, why are you fucking with shit out there? Here's another. This is fucking absolutely one of the stupidest things I've read to date about cannabis laws. Rhode Island. Bill attempts to prevent cannabis gatherings of more than 3 people. Rhode Island legislators have sponsored a bill that aims to fine groups of 3 or more people if cannabis or other hallucinogenic substances are present.
What difference does the amount of people make?
That's what I'm still fucking trying to figure out since I read this article.
Oh, there's 4 of you.
You're going to get fined $1,000 if you get caught. If this bill passes. S-125 was introduced in Rhode Island on February 1st by 6 senators. You're all stupid. You're all stupid. When people get together and smoke cannabis, they're playing fucking dominoes and they're playing fucking Mexican Train and they're playing Uno and they're having fun and they're fucking enjoying. What people do in their own home is not the government's business. Rhode Island.
Whoa.
Oregon cannabis industry's weakest economic position since launch in 2016. Because your fucking taxes and everything you do, I don't even want to fucking get into it. Hawaii, though. Senate committee approves cannabis legalization bill and House panel passes psychedelics research measure. They're talking about psychedelics. Hold on a second. I just fucking read this today. They're saying that psychedelics market is expected to hit about approximately $12 billion by 2029.
I saw that too.
Everybody's going to jump on that bag quick, and every corporation is going to get on that too and fuck it up. Native American cannabis businesses spread across the United States. The ones that are allowing it, fucking go, man. Start growing some hemp. Start fucking doing what you fucking know how to do. Grow good weed. Hemp. Speaking of hemp, man, this fuck. Every time I send you an article about hemp, I know how much you enjoy it. About batteries. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weed Man.
Yeah. Hemp could make EV batteries better. Here's how. This is from the Hearst newspaper blogger network. Experts project that the demand for batteries for electric vehicles will increase by 30% from now until 2030. Right now, EV batteries are far from perfect. They're slow to charge, their range is low, and concerns have been raised about their environmental impact. But a new class of EV batteries, dubbed plant-based batteries, could provide a solution to some of these issues and perhaps push the industry's growth even further. Their secret ingredient? Hemp. Plant-based EV batteries contain byproducts from the hemp plant, the same plant that CBD comes from. While research on these batteries is still early in its works, they could potentially outperform both graphene and lithium-ion batteries, the two standard types of batteries used in electric vehicles today, in safety, affordability, performance, and environmental impact. Texas-based BEMP Research Corporation developed its plant-based EV battery in partnership with the University of North Texas in 2022. The batteries at BEMP utilize lithium-sulfur batteries made from boron carbide, a byproduct of hemp. According to BEMP, these plant-based batteries will offer the following advantages over lithium-ion EV batteries. They're cheaper, more lightweight, production is highly scalable, they perform better, and they are recyclable. Additionally, the team at BEMP Research believes its batteries are safer than lithium-ion ones. The founders claim that unlike lithium-ion EV batteries, hemp-based batteries are non-combustible, which would make them safer. According to Energy Tech, BEMP Research intends to make its batteries available for sale in or before 2026. Another company looking into plant-based EV batteries is Alternate Systems. It's a publicly traded company that builds EV batteries. It also researches new ways to use hemp in the auto industry. The company purchased a plot of land with plans to grow hemp for EV tech. The company began its research right after the 2018 Farm Bill was passed. It worked with David Milton, a professor at New York's Clarkson University and an expert in electrochemistry, the study of energy storage devices like batteries. Mitland claimed in 2019 that the batteries he created for Alternate Systems store 200% more energy than gold standard graphene batteries. That makes these batteries more than just batteries. They are supercapacitors. Supercapacitors differ from regular lithium-ion batteries. They provide larger amounts of energy at once. Plus, these types of super batteries create new energy when the drivers apply brakes. Like regular graphene batteries, though, non-plant-based supercapacitors are pricey. Hemp-based alternatives, like the supercapacitors from Alternate Systems, could make these types of energy sources far more affordable and accessible. Alternate Systems may not only use hemp for batteries, the company also wants to use components of the hemp plant for car body parts. As more EVs come on the market, many manufacturers are looking at plant-based batteries. They're cheap, easy to produce, more environmentally friendly, and have been reported to perform better than graphene and lithium-ion. If further research proves these batteries to be as good as their manufacturers claim, many of us may be driving CBD-infused vehicles soon.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Drive your little hemp car. Remember Saturns were all like a plastic body?
Right.
Maybe there's going to be a hemp plastic car body.
I'm sure.
So you're going to drive your hemp car with the hemp battery into your hempcrete house.
Yeah.
And then have a little hemp garden out back because it's so good for your soil.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
pretty cool.
It's going to be amazing. Just want to grow it. International news, nonprofit cannabis clubs in Malta. What you need to know, maximum of 500 club members, cannot be located 250 meters of a school. Advertising is prohibited as well as use of cannabis, word in the club's name, or anything that would incite its use. Also, consumers can only have a membership at one club at a time. That's stupid. Per ICBC International, cannabis clubs must have legal representation, and club administrators have to be residents of at least 5 years. Moreover, all cannabis has to be cultivated by the club itself. That's kind of cool. Registration fees cost $1,000. Awesome. That's That's in euros, I believe. And the fee starts, the license fee starts at $87.50, which is valid for 1 year with 3-year renewals. Fucking dope. Good for you, Malta. Getting some shit going. Colombia now has mandatory medical cannabis as part of its health care. Fucking banging right there. Good for you, Colombia. Making some big fucking waves in the cannabis industry. This is another good story. And it's about someone who was convicted of cannabis charges. And now they're fucking selling it, right?
Yep.
Legally.
Traditional market to the legal market.
Hell yeah. Another great story.
Yep. They were convicted on marijuana charges. Now they're first in line to sell it legally. From Stephen Sykes at CNBC. This is all taking place in Trenton, New Jersey. Tahir Johnson has been arrested on marijuana possession charges 3 times. Now, for the first time in his life, his conviction of one of those charges won't hurt his employment prospects. It will help. Johnson, 39, will be one of the first people with marijuana-related convictions to own and operate a legal dispensary in New Jersey when he opens Simply Pure Trenton in March.
Good for him.
Yep. In his hometown of Ewing, which borders the state's capital city. He was among about a dozen in the state to win a conditional license in 2022 because of his status as a social equity applicant. I checked all the boxes, Johnson said, of his qualifications for the application, and I was especially confident because of my previous arrests. New Jersey is prioritizing granting licenses to dispensaries run by minorities, women, and disabled veterans, dispensaries located in impact zones or communities disproportionately affected by policing and marijuana arrests, and dispensaries run by people with prior marijuana convictions. It's part of a concerted effort to redress decades of racially biased anti-drug policies. Johnson fit into all 3 priority categories. Since he won his conditional license, he raised capital, purchased a property, and secured approval from municipal authorities. A conditional license is a provisional license that allows awardees to begin operating while they fulfill requirements for an annual license. The New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, or the CRC, issued the first 11 of them in May. Since then, about 1/4 of all licensees have gone to licenses have gone to social equity applicants, and 16% went specifically to applicants with prior marijuana convictions, according to a recent report from the agency. It's a full circle moment, said Johnson, whose past is riddled with run-ins with police, overnight stays in jail, and court battles over small amounts of marijuana recovered during traffic stops. These days, Johnson spends his time hiring staff, meeting with contractors, and preparing merchandise. He expects the business will be profitable. The generational wealth this will create for my family is surreal, he said. In the third quarter of 2022, there was $177 million in marijuana sales across the state, including $116 million in recreational sales alone, according to data from the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Lawmakers say efforts that prioritize entrepreneurs such as Johnson are a part of a broader reckoning to right the wrongs of the past and give those most affected by marijuana prohibition a leg up against corporate competitors. Similar initiatives are underway in other states, including New York, which has reserved the first 150 licenses solely for people with marijuana-related offenses or their relatives. There are plenty of people that went to jail or prison for marijuana that have more experience than a lot of these corporate entities, said Trenton Mayor Reed Gusiora. We wanted to make sure that they were able to get into the doorway themselves and be just as successful as the company coming here from Colorado. Gusiora, who helped introduce legislation for recreational use, said he's thrilled at the influx of marijuana businesses trying to open in Trenton. He hopes the city can be a model for what a healthy, equitable, legal market could look like. But before that can happen, those most affected by the war on drugs need to be included, Gusiora said. The whole purpose of legalization was to put drug dealers out of business, said the mayor. And now, unless you allow them to get in legitimately, that defeats the whole purpose of legalization. John Dockery, who has been dealing marijuana since he was a teenager in the 90s, said his first charge at 19 for simple possession significantly limited his job prospects and kept him dealing. From the beginning of my adulthood, I had to disclose my charge every time I went for a job, and it stopped me from progressing in life, said the Trenton native, who last year was among the first to receive a conditional license. At first, Dockery was suspicious of New Jersey's legalization efforts. He had racked up 6 charges over the years, but said this was the norm for Trenton. I don't know many people without at least one marijuana charge, Dockery said. Whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, everyone here has one. At least everyone has one. African Americans represent nearly half of Trenton's population. In recent years, the state said it was the impact zone, or an area where marijuana criminalization contributed to higher concentrations of law enforcement activity, unemployment, and poverty. In Mercer County, where Trenton is located, African Americans were more than 4 times as likely as white residents to be charged with possessing the drug, despite similar rates of usage. Dockery said, even though he was exactly the kind of applicant the state promised to give priority to while issuing licenses, he was not so used to stuff feeling like it's not programmed for us, that the award came to him as a surprise. New Jersey lawmakers are hopeful that people such as Dockery, who dealt marijuana in the existing legal or legacy market, will want to join the burgeoning legal market and apply as social equity applicants. For longtime dealer Ed Forshin, the decision to go legit concluded a decades-long saga of arrests, raids, battle courts, and stints in prison. Forshin was 58, and he had sold marijuana most of his life and gained fame in New Jersey as a staunch advocate for legalization, running for political office in the state through his legalized marijuana party. He also goes by the moniker NJ Weedman, and he began selling weed. Yeah.
Hold on. Yep. I've always said there's more than one weed man out there. There's thousands of weed men and weed women out there and weed people and weed everybody. So,
but he was ballsy. He started selling weed openly at a Trenton storefront in 2016.
Ballsy.
His dispensary, quote unquote, NJ Weedman's joint, sits opposite Trenton City Hall. Talk about that. I like that. The black market was here first, so the state's going to have to catch up to me and people like me, he said. But my goal in the end is to have a hand in a thriving legal business and be able to pass it along to my kids.
Hell yeah.
So hopefully that happens.
NJ Weedman, what's up, brother? Yep. Home team right here. Jersey in the house. What? I love it. Love that story. Jim McMahon, former Bears quarterback, is a very big advocate for cannabis, especially because he had full of body injuries and concussions. And he has started a company and he's trying to get cannabis to be normalized in the NFL. And his interview was great. He was talking about the endocannabinoid system, the entourage effect, the CB1 to CB2 receptors, how it helps inflammation, and why this is not more normalized in the NFL. You give them opioids, which opioids doesn't even, like, your body doesn't have an endocannabinoid system for opioids. It doesn't have CB1, CB2 receptors for opioids. Your body has to get fucking a lot of it to be able to even take it in. Compared to cannabis, as soon as you take it, bam, you wake up your endocannabinoid system. The receptors are there. Your endamine is in there. Everything is working together. So he's trying to get the NFL to say, fucking do this because it's going to help your guys in the long run and getting them addicted to fucking opioids. And then they fucking can't get more opioids because they're out of the NFL, and then they're fucking switching to harder drugs. And then you go down the wormhole. So good for you, Jim McMahon. Keep on riding your little fucking scooters around town half naked, and we'll fucking go from there and selling some cannabis. Good for you. Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah.
Pretty good fucking show tonight, hey?
I think so.
I'm pretty high.
I am.
I can get higher or normaler.
Let's get more normal. I'm ready.
Me too. Got anything else to say?
Have a wonderful week, everybody. Enjoy whatever you're doing. I'm stealing your taglines here. Be good. You do it better. Go, Mr. Weedman.
That's it. All right. Hey, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Peace be with you all. Be kind to one another. We need some kindness. We need some love. We need some health. We need fucking a lot. Okay? To all you people out there, man, just fucking get it together. See what's happening. Don't forget, come visit us on 8decades.com. Check out all the accessories that Mrs. Weedman's put together in our bios and learn about us and learn about our what 8 Decades stands for. Come check us out on 8decades.com. Everybody out there in the world, as Paulie always says, smoke smart. puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.